welcome back to another episode of Shizoda and Friends podcast. I'm Shizoda, and today we're interviewing my friend Junninho. Before we get in there, though, I'd like to welcome you all who are coming from Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you didn't know, this podcast is now available on both platforms as well as YouTube, so hit that subscribe button and hopefully it makes it easier to listen while you're doing other things. I know for YouTube you usually have to keep it open unless you bought the premium. So I hope more of you stay engaged that way, and if you have any other feedback or anything else you'd like to see, don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can comment it here, you can email me, you can actually that's about it. If you like what you heard, subscribe and follow on whatever platform you're on, and hit that like button. So this episode, we're interviewing my friend Junninho. Junninho is a superstar. He studied at Brooklyn College with me, and before Brooklyn College, he was at Albany, and right now he works at Google as a customer engineer as part of the Cloud Technical Residency Program, I think is what it's called. He's had 8 internships throughout his undergrad experience, and he was the VP of the Computer Science Club, and he's just overall a really cool guy, and I'm excited for y'all to hear this episode. So let's get started. It is so good to have you here. How are you doing, Junninho?
I'm good. I'm prepping for Thanksgiving, so that's a thing. But other than that, everything's good. It's been a slow week because everyone's pretty much out of office. But I've been taking the time to catch up on some work that I've been kind of neglected for a while.
No,
So yeah.
You're working on Thanksgiving break.
Well, I'm not on break. I didn't take the time off because I need money, but I need to save my vacation days. How are you?
I'm okay. Things could be worse, and I'm just vibing out here.
Good to hear.
Okay, let's get into it. You just started at Google. First off, congratulations.
Thank you.
Secondly, tell us what you do.
Yeah, so I started at Google in July as a part of the Cloud Technical Residency Program. Pretty much what that is, it is Google's investment into developing the next generation of cloud talent internally. So there are several roles across Google Cloud that exist. As Google Cloud tries to increase their market share and to grow within the cloud business, the intention is they, instead of just keep like creating separate talent pools from people that are already in the industry, they want to try to help develop the talent that they really want instead of trying to take people from other places. So that's where they hire myself and other new grads that are just graduating college. They put us through a 3-month training intensive where we learn the different product areas within Google Cloud, and we learn about the different roles within Google Cloud. And then afterwards, we go through 3 separate 3-month rotations as a part of the program. And in those rotations, we spend 3 months working in the individual roles that are a part of the program. So the one that I'm currently in is customer engineering, and that's what I've been doing for the past 6 or 7 weeks.
And I know before this you were doing training for 3 months. And
Yes.
What are the next 2 roles you'll be going in on?
Yeah, so next, I'm going to be doing a professional services role, which that'll cover strategic cloud engineering and cloud consultant, and also technical account manager. So it's a bit of technical hands-on, helping customers migrate to Google Cloud and help them with varying projects that they're working on while like moving over to the cloud, or if they're transferring cloud providers or whatever. And then technical account manager is managing the relationship between Google and the customer, and ensuring that you're pretty much removing any potential blockers that could be preventing them from having a great experience while using Google Cloud. And
How
then
was the
the third one
training?
is also another customer engineering one.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was the training for you? 3 months is
uh
a long time.
Yeah, it was intense. It's called a training intensive for a reason, and it was definitely intense. Pretty much every hour of my day was scheduled out. It was very intentional, but honestly, like coming out of it, I learned a lot. I During customer interactions that I've had now, I can definitely see the growth between when I just started and where I am now. I'm a lot more familiar with like tools that I was only like I just knew what they were. I didn't really know how to use them. The training kind of gave me more hands-on experience using them. They gave a lot of preparation for what's now my customer facing role. So there was some leadership training. There's training on executive presence. There's training on how to whiteboard effectively in terms of being able to tell a story through the things that you're like presenting. So it was definitely a good experience, and I honestly, it, coming out of it, I'm definitely happy that I picked to like join the program because there's even if I don't stick to like a customer facing cloud role, the skills that I gained throughout the training intensive are probably just gonna stick with me for a long time because they're just general things to help me grow as a person, both like personally and professionally.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a good time.
So I personally feel like whenever a program is like intensive training, I feel like it's a way to weed out people. Did anyone drop throughout the program? And
No, we're
how
actually
do they support people who are struggling with the curriculum?
so like I think one of the biggest benefits of the program is that it's a cohort based program. So current or this year they have four separate cohorts. At least my cohort, there are 23 people, I believe. Um,
Mm.
Throughout the program, they have study sessions. There's a lot of group work where we're able to like bounce off each other. And then even during the week when we have self study sessions or instructor led session, there's time for us to really just interact with each other and use each other's resources. So there's something that I may understand. So like throughout a lot of our labs, because I had prior experience with like the infrastructure side of things, I was able to help other people get through their infrastructure labs. And then there were data stuff where I wasn't as strong as on, and I would reach out to other people for help. So the cohort aspect of it just kind of helps and facilitates some of that, and hopefully no one gets left behind because of it. And in addition to that, they have for some of the harder topics, they hire like external trainers to train us. So we have instructor led training where I think Kubernetes is like one of the hard ones where it's like super complicated, super complex. It takes, I don't know, I still don't fully understand it, but they had someone come in that's an expert in Kubernetes that does trainings across the world with multiple companies all over, all throughout the year, and that person was the same person that trained us, and it was like an opportunity for us to have someone that we can like ask live questions to if there was something that we were concerned about or we didn't understand fully.
It's really funny to me that they hired an external like tutor or like, instructor for Kubernetes, which is built internally at Google. It's
Yeah,
open source by Google.
I mean, I think the way I see it is there are people that build the product and are able to um
Hmm.
like sell the product in some sense, and then there are people that
Hmm.
are educators and they know how to teach the product, and
I
they're
hear
these
you.
part these like people, the external people, they're learning partners. So they like partner with Google, and every time there's product updates, Google ensures that they are aware of them and that they update their curriculum to facilitate whatever new things that are available within the different products that we have.
Yeah, I feel like that's a big problem in academia too. There are a lot of people who know a lot of stuff and are super smart but can't explain jack. Like even like they could have explained it so much simpler and they always tend to overcomplicate.
Yeah. And like one of the biggest benefits is to we like during the instructor led training, there are certain times when we'd be like, oh, can you give us a real world example of like a time when this specific feature of Google Kubernetes engine was used, and they're able to be like, oh yeah, well, I had a customer that was going through this, or they had this challenge, and I helped them do this. And because they have that hands-on experience, and because they've worked with so many customers, they're able to provide that context. Whereas the people that are working internally, um, unless they're like developer advocates or really like external focused people, it's hard for them to really get that sort of perspective. All they know is that, hey, there's this feature, I built the feature. And I mean, some people are a little bit more involved in the Kubernetes community, so they may be able to tell a little bit more, but that's kind of the way I see it.
Yeah, I think sometimes the nature of software engineering, especially at larger organization, is you focus on your little part And
Hmm.
if you have time, you focus on the large. And most engineers are just overwhelmed by that little part they take care of. It's hard to know, like, sometimes, overall structure and how it relates to other components, or how developers might use it. I mean, how external developers might use it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, even like there are some projects that have multiple product managers, and like it gets really, really
True.
complex on like the larger scale of things. So um
I
I think the strategy of using learning partners and relying on developer advocates and stuff that the tech industry seems to be like going towards is a good thing.
mhm.
And it'll hopefully help more people like better adapt than every like the random technologies that are coming out every day.
Yeah, I think like large corporations are such a like different beast. I think sometimes they overcomplicate it, and even with overcomplication, sometimes they're still very, very productive. And I don't know, I'm still like wrapping my head around it. Um, but we're gonna go back into, you said, you've done infrastructure for a while, so I want to go into your background. But before we do, tell us about how you got to Google. And I think this will touch a little bit of your background too, but um, in terms of people who want to enter Google, or who want to do the technical cloud program, and maybe internship as a whole,
Yeah.
because I know you've done
Uh
about 8 internships, which is ridiculous.
yeah. It's been a wild ride. So just like starting off from Google, at least with this specific program, I got in pretty much. I just applied, but I did have, I guess, some. I had a long resume to support me, and I also had 2 internships at Google to support me. So that was.
Wait, I gotta pause you here. Long internship, a long resume. Do you actually have more than a single page resume?
No, I
Okay,
no. But like, so my LinkedIn is my long form resume, and that's the way I say
got
it.
it,
And
got it, got
then
it.
I put the relevant stuff on my actual resume. Plus, like,
As
it's
you should.
been 7 years, so doing 8 internships, like I can't. There got to a certain point where I just had to start leaving off the earlier ones, especially the ones from high school. I think one of the biggest
Yeah.
advice people tell you is that, hey, and once you get to college, and once you start doing internships in college, the stuff that you have from high school aren't as relevant unless they're like directly related to the role. Um, so yeah, so I did 8 internships. 2 of them were at Google. So that the especially the 2 Google ones, they had on record my performance as an intern. So that was presumably a factor in like me getting the role. And then I had I didn't ask for referrals, but I had references that were internal Google people that knew my work well that I added to my application after they asked if I had anyone. Um, so I presume that also helped. But I did my
It
interviews,
wouldn't hurt.
passed my interviews, and here I am. But to talk a little bit about my background, I I moved from Jamaica to New York, Jamaica the country, should clarify that, to Brooklyn, New York in 2014, I think. And at the time, didn't have much experience with tech, didn't really know, like, I had been like helping people set up like equipment at my school in Jamaica or something, but it wasn't really anything too serious. And I remember when I was looking for high schools to go to, because at the time I was going to be starting in 10th grade, when I was looking for high schools to go to, I like went through all the list, and I think there were only a few like schools that were technology focused that had seats for me. So I ended up picking the high school that I went to, and it turned out they didn't really have a technology or like an established technology program. Uh, so at the time, there were like maybe 1 or 2 technology classes that I could take. They put me in robotics because they didn't really let me pick what classes I wanted. They put me in robotics for the first semester when I was there. Really enjoyed it. Joined the robotics club. It was a lot of fun. Went to competitions.
Well, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So I moved to New York in 2014. So at the time I was around 16. Started high school then, and at the time didn't really have much experience in tech. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew I was interested in tech, but I didn't really have an experience. I didn't think I could ever, right, realistically make it work, just because I have to figure out college. I have to figure out uh, getting used to being in America. So that was
It's a lot.
that was an experience. But I think I got really lucky. And my high school, even though it said it was a technology school, wasn't really a technology school. Which wasn't the luck part. The luck part was there happened to be a nonprofit called Code Nation. At the time, it was called Scripted, and their whole goal is to work with underserved high schools and bring technology programs to those schools. So as a part of that, they had volunteers that came to my school and taught myself and some other students web development. And I did that program, did really well at it, caught up really fast. And one of the volunteers actually went and spoke to the program manager from Code Nation. They were like, "Hey, do you think we could work out something?" Even though like the internship deadline already passed, but she asked them if they could work out something, and she would work with her company to host me for the summer. It wasn't something I asked for. I didn't even know this internship program was a thing.
Aw.
It just came out of nowhere. They came to me and they were like, "Oh, well, you have an internship. Go fill out this form." And that being like, I don't know. I was in the country for just over a year at the time,
I love
and
that.
it was definitely like it was mind blowing. And I was just like, well, I guess I have my first job in tech, which is cool. And I like it's been really really like mind blowing, just because pretty much every job that I've had since moving here has been in tech, and I had 8 internships and like 2 or 3 part-time jobs over the past 7 years, and every single one of them has been tech. And like for me, that's really lucky. I know a lot of people that are like in tech and they've had various starts, or like throughout college they had to work other jobs to like make ends meet while they were trying to like develop their careers or whatever. I was super super lucky. Um, so I acknowledge that, and I'm like very very thankful for Code Nation, to the point where I still try to help out as much as I can now. I try to donate whenever I can. I try to volunteer when I can. I'm like officially on their alumni council, which is like pretty much trying to help alumni once they leave the program figure out like, hey, we're out of high school, we're now in college, we're in boot camp, we're doing whatever. How do I take the things, all the skills, all the relationships and network that I've built while in Code Nation, and try to expand on that and make a career in tech? So I'm like on the committee for that, and we're trying to figure out exactly what that looks like. But hopefully we start to ramp that up soon, and we'll start to see like the benefit that that has on the other alumni. But yeah, so that was like my start, and then over the next few years, interned at New York Times the second year, which was like also mind blowing, because I don't know, I'm 2 years into the country. Never expect, like everyone knows New York Times. Never
It's huge,
expected that I
yeah.
would end up there. And I remember at the time thinking that like, hey, this is the biggest I'm ever gonna get. I get there's no bigger company than this that I could ever work
I'm
for.
18. I've peaked.
Uh,
This is it.
yeah, so I was just like, I'm gonna try to make all the relationships here, and like try to ensure that when I graduate college I still know people and I'm still like connected with those people, which I am. And like I didn't make those connections just solely for that reason, because they were all like pretty cool people and they were very supportive during my time there. um but 2 years later, I was doing the grind, sitting through classes and applying to internships, internship after internship. And uh in I think it was 2018. So that was my sophomore year. I applied and got rejected from every single company that I applied to, and I can guarantee you, I did almost probably over 200 applications, and I got a call back from one, and it was Google. And
That's the
mind
only
blowing,
one you
because I was
need.
just like, okay, I don't care. Even after I got my acceptance, I kept getting rejections. I'm just like, listen, y'all can keep rejecting me because Google accepted me. I don't care. I feel like I made it. But yeah, so that kind of started a pretty like transformational journey in my career, because that's at the time when I was like, hey, I don't want to do web development anymore. I want to start to focus on like the IT and infrastructure side of things, and like doing IT support was a good start for that. So I did that as a part of my internship. During my part-time jobs during the school year, I would work in IT, both when I was in Albany and at Brooklyn College. And then eventually, my the Google IT internship program was limited to 2 years, and so the last year before, like this summer before I graduated, I applied for Qualcomm. I got accepted for another support role. COVID happened, and then that original team wasn't able to host me anymore. Turns out that my recruiter went and asked a team if they were willing to host another intern. That team said yes. The other, I think, huge lucky part is this team ended up being the things. So it was the Unix configuration management team,
Right.
and that the work that they do was pretty much all the stuff that I've been doing on my own for the prior months, just trying to upskill and learn new things or whatever. So I was working with a lot of configuration management tools, trying to figure out exactly how they're useful and how you can like use them at scale, because a huge part of like managing infrastructure is doing infrastructure as code. So you don't want to be manually configuring every system every time you need to deploy an application. So that was a huge part of that. And I just like randomly my recruiter reached out to that one specific team, and that's the team that I ended up on. And it was just I think a mind-blowing outcome. And I interned there. I did amazing at my project, had a lot of visibility. I got to present to my director and my VP, which was like, I don't know. I feel like there's so many things that has happened over the past few years that I don't know how to explain how it's possible for those things to happen, especially being a company as big as Qualcomm. To be able to have like exposure to VPs, I think was not typical. So that's like all of that has led me to where I am. All of that has like, as we talked about, like, hey, I've had like previous experience in infrastructure. Like it all comes from that. Every single person that has like mentored me, been my manager, just met with me and given me advice has contributed just to me getting here, and being where I am today, and being, I think, as knowledgeable as I am, even though I always feel like I don't know enough. But that's a part of the job, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I think it's also important to call out that it wasn't, just luck alone. I mean, I've seen you in situations, and it's not, you put yourself out there, you ask questions, you get involved, and I'm sure like the first mentor that saw you in Code Nation or Script had noticed that too. And I think it's easy to like chalk it all up to luck, but you definitely deserve it. I'm there too sometimes. I'm like, oh, everything I did was just lucky, but um, for instance, you said the Qualcomm opportunity was lucky because you're just, doing configurations, you're learning. But, most people don't even take the time to learn on their own, including myself, when life gets busy. Um, so it's cool. I think being humble is good, but I think also being proud of your own accomplishments is great to see.
Yeah, I mean, like I know I've worked hard, and like I don't know. I just feel like there are a lot of people out there that
Yeah.
work as hard, even harder than I do, and don't get the same. So I feel like it's a mixture of the hard work
And
and
luck.
just being lucky and knowing the right people and like all of those like things. So I definitely, I admit that like I work hard, but I also kind of admit that like a lot of it is probably a bit of luck.
No, I have the same struggle, like yes, I work hard, but I bet you there's so many more people who work even harder, that don't get paid enough. Like talk about immigrants, period. Like food service people, there's people who don't have the same
Yep.
opportunities perhaps in different parts of the world that are working as equally hard and probably smarter than us, in computers that don't get paid the same. So I hear you. I hear you.
Hmm.
I'm a hypocrite in trying to say, it's not, don't call it all to luck, but I'm the same way. So
I mean, I tell people the same thing,
yeah.
so I don't know. It's harder to give credit to yourself for these things, I think.
Yeah. Um, so when you moved to America from Jamaica at 16, 17, did you come by yourself or was this with your family?
No, so pretty much my entire family on like my mom's side of the family moved
Okay.
here at the same time. But we all had like our own struggles trying to assimilate and like figure out how this country works, because the whole everything's great in America
Yes.
thing
Yes.
necessarily isn't necessarily true, and it's definitely a struggle and something that I and my entire family had to go through and figure out on our own. So I came with family, but there was a lot that I didn't really want to put on my family because I felt like they had their own things to deal with and I needed to just figure out on my own. So I like bared the weight of a lot of that struggle just going through high school and college, trying to ensure that I become somewhat successful
Not
in
a
the end.
financial burden on the
Yeah.
family, and support them in a way, maybe. Tell us a
hmm
little about those struggles. What was some of the hard parts about moving to America around 16, 17?
well, the biggest one was I had a Jamaican accent, which isn't really like like okay, I know what you're gonna say, but it's fine. I know how to hide it really well. And I learned that because I like somewhat I like I didn't really consider it bullying, but I like in hindsight it was pretty much
Mm.
bullying because there are a lot of people that would just like make fun of me for like mispronouncing words or saying things incorrectly or like saying things in my accent or like incorrectly, not American, or whatever. And I just got annoyed. And I was just like, you know what? I'm not doing this. I'm going to figure out how to hide it as best as I possibly can. And I eventually did, to the point where I don't really like I you'll still hear it when I speak to my family and stuff, but outside of that, this is pretty much how I sound. And I that was like the biggest struggle I had to go through. So for the first like few months, I like yeah, I had to figure out high school. I had to figure out other things, but I literally like became a lot less social because I was so concerned with how I was speaking, to the point where I just like avoided speaking until I was like confident enough to speak without constantly worrying that, hey, did I say this right? Am I like, is somebody gonna make fun of me for like not saying things the way that they think it should be said? Which is always funny to me, but it is what it is. And then outside of that, just getting used to by school, getting used to like figuring out college, I think was a hard part. My high school advisor disappeared for, I don't know, 6 months to a year or something, when I was supposed to be applying for college and trying to figure
Oh
these things
no.
out. So it was a lot of Googling and me trying to figure out what schools are good. Like it was a mess. It got to the point where I was helping other people in my like class like figure things out. I was printing people's transcripts for them, and like it wasn't the way it was supposed to be, but I was determined to try to make the best of my opportunity here, and I pretty much put my all into school and into my career, and um now we're here.
I definitely want to talk about your college experience because I think that's interesting. But going back to the assimilating part, oh man, I had the same troubles. Not even just the accent, it was the way I looked, the way I talked, the way I socialized. There's so many like micro aggressions or micro like things you're
Yeah.
just supposed to know how to do. And don't even get me started on, the American customs of conversation. It's not the same globally, I'm
It's not.
Was accent the only thing you struggled with? Or speech, I guess, not
uh
just accents. I'm just curious.
I think that I don't know, but like I've been having a lot of reflection on that recently, so it's the thing that's top of mind. But it's always funny because when I bring up that like whenever I bring up that story to people, they're like, "Huh, you had a Jamaican accent?" I was just like, I would never know. Even when I tell people I'm Jamaican, it's always they're just like,
Yeah,
because I feel like most Jamaicans that are here typically still keep a little bit
I
of it.
know. It's,
But
this is especially
I got
true
really annoyed.
if you came at the age of 16. Most people still, even like Uzbek people and Russian people, if you came at 16, you keep your language. So my hypothesis is you didn't unlearn the Jamaican accent. You learned the English accent, and now you're just speaking in an American accent the whole time.
Yeah, pretty
The whole
much.
time you're here.
Like it's gotten to a point where I even struggle to like talk to other Jamaicans in my Jamaican accent unless they're my like it's so weird. Like there'll be people that will be talking to me in Jamaican patois, and I respond to them in like an American accent just because it just feels like out of place for me to talk to anyone but my family
Yeah.
in that way. So
Talk about the identity crisis you get when you come to America at a certain age.
it's a thing. It's definitely a
Yeah.
thing.
Personally, for me, I don't feel necessarily Uzbek, and I don't feel necessarily Ingla, like American, and it's just like this weird place where neither places feel right. I think the only identity I really
hmm
resonate with is immigrant. I'm an immigrant. And most immigrants have similar situations and similar struggles.
Yeah. I have friends that literally say I'm not Jamaican because I don't do anything that Jamaicans do or whatever. I don't know. It's
People be
it's
gatekeeping the
it's
most
it's
random
definitely
things.
yeah. I have friends that I literally knew for like years in Jamaica that are just like, we don't claim you anymore. I was like, okay. I was like,
Oh
that's fair.
no, I don't like that. You gotta fight them.
It's fine. I still have my Jamaican passport. That's all that matters.
The documents disagree.
hmm
Okay, college. You went to Albany and then you came to Brooklyn College. How did those two compare?
Uh there were, I think, positives and negatives of both experiences. Brooklyn College, I definitely think, has the superior curriculum.
That's
Um,
wild to
we
me.
definitely have the better, we definitely have the better clubs. I
That's
will say
good. That's
that.
good.
Um,
But we'll see.
I feel like at least the tech related clubs are a lot stronger at Brooklyn College, which hopefully continues to remain that way, because I think it's a huge part of helping people that are getting introduced to computer science to figure out what they
Super
need to do
important.
when the school can't really support the entire learning experience of someone that's new to tech and trying to learn computer science. Um, but
100%.
I think some of the big things from Albany were there were like tons. I feel like a lot more leadership
Mm.
opportunities. There were a lot more community based opportunities. I feel like that's something that Brooklyn College lacks, being primarily a commuter college, where you don't really have that sense of community.
Yeah.
There isn't these huge school events. People don't all go to football games and basketball games. It's like you don't really feel that. And then uh, my freshman year in Albany, I was a part of this like live and learning community, which pretty much everyone that was in my college, so that's the engineering and computer science or whatever they call themselves.
Hmm.
I think it was engineering and applied sciences. So that was the computer science majors, computer engineering majors, informatics majors. Everyone that was under those like majors, or not everyone, the people that were a part of the program were all in that in those majors, and we all lived on the same floor. We took classes together. We pretty much all were like, we were forced to be friends with each other, and which is a good and a bad thing. But I definitely met a ton of cool people there, and it was a good way to just I feel like one of the hardest things going into college is finding like-minded people and being able to feel like you belong in some sense. Are you good?
Yeah, something just started playing all of a sudden, and I don't know where the audio is coming
Oh,
from. Oh, okay. There you go. Breaking the fourth wall again. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
no, you're good. Yeah. So like a huge like struggle going into college is like trying to feel like you belong and trying to find a group of people that you can relate to. So that program definitely helped a bit with that, and I was able to focus on school and less on making friends because I was just around people that, and I was going to classes with them. Like they just became friends naturally because we lived on the same floor. We had like Super Smash Bros. Tournaments at nights and stuff like that. So it was definitely a great experience. And then like there's leadership opportunities within that where you can be an ambassador. So you are your community's like spokesperson, which I ended up doing. And I was I don't know. It was a good experience. There were a ton of fun events and stuff that we got to plan and take part in. And then my sophomore year, I got to be a mentor for the incoming freshmen that were also a part of that community. So that was like more like leadership opportunities there. So I feel like there's positives and negatives to both, but uh, overall, I think I definitely preferred my Brooklyn College experience.
Me
Um,
too.
I feel like I got a lot more preparation for
Double
my
dots.
career out of the classes. So yeah,
Um,
it's
when you first said this, that the curriculum, you also said recruiting was better at Brooklyn College for tech. So curriculum, recruiting, and the community, the tech community, the clubs were stronger. I was just like a little mind blown. I don't know why I always thought like those go away colleges and the private college. Not, I guess it's not even private. It's a state college, but I don't know. Yeah,
yeah. I
that
mean,
was beautiful to hear.
specifically for recruiting, I think Brooklyn College like still has a lot of work to do, and I think
I can
like the
agree
TTP
there. Yeah.
program and a lot of those things should help to like bridge that gap, because like the biggest thing I've never understood is how our school could be in the middle of New York City and companies are still willing to pay
Thousands of dollars.
recruiters to go to other states and recruit people to move to New York City.
Uh,
Never understood it. And I'm just like, if it is that you don't like the talent level that's coming out of Brooklyn College, then it's your opportunity to work with us and to figure things out.
not even your opportunity, your
I
responsibility to cultivate the talent. That's where like
yeah,
the
I'm just like,
wild.
you're not going to get quality talent if you don't invest into like working with the schools to produce the talent that you want. And rather than going and working with all these target schools, work with the schools that are in your local communities and produce the talent there, where you don't have to pay what $10,000 in relocation every year to get people to move after they graduate and they need to move across the country to go like work at your company. So never understood it, but Brooklyn College definitely still had that advantage of having a lot of people within that like fought their way into these like large tech companies that are internally trying to facilitate these relationships and trying to improve that like talent pipeline. And as I said, there's stuff like TTP where it's the city working with these companies, and there's like small businesses getting involved in a lot of that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But Albany didn't have any of that. The only like our career fairs are very, very depressing for any person involved in engineering and tech, because it was just like, okay, you show up and the only people that are there are like EY or like some pharmaceutical company or like something like that, and it's just like, is that really like what most people want to do when they go study computer science? Probably not. So I definitely think Brooklyn College is way ahead, and there's a lot more work being done at Brooklyn College to try to improve that experience for computer science students. And then the club is a huge part of that, and I think as the club continues to grow, as we have new e-boards that are working towards like addressing some of these issues, then hopefully we'll get a little bit closer and we'll start to see a lot more CUNY students, Brooklyn College students specifically, going into these big tech companies, going into, I mean, wherever it is that they want to work, making their own startups, doing whatever it is, starting to populate the tech industry like they should. Because it's not that we don't have the talent or the, I think the intelligence or whatever it is that like people want to feel like target schools have over CUNY students. It's just that we don't have the opportunity, and no one's out there fighting for us to get in there. And if we don't fight for ourselves, then we don't get it. And like yourself, me, a few other CUNY students I know, every single person that I know that are working in any big tech company or have successful careers can all say that, hey, this probably wasn't something that my school facilitated. This was something that I had to go out there and really work hard for, and I had to go make connections, and I had to apply a lot, and I had to go to conferences with my own money. My school didn't provide scholarships like some other schools that, like, there's so much work that goes into it. And honestly, to try to balance that plus like trying to maintain good grades in school isn't an easy task. And plus a lot of people have part-time jobs and stuff like outside of that. So it's like, it's definitely something that needs to be addressed. But I think Brooklyn College is slowly making progress towards that, and hopefully eventually they'll get there and they'll spread to all the other CUNY schools, and we'll start to see more CUNY students starting at these big companies.
Yeah, I think CUNY as a whole, in Brooklyn College specifically, like they're definitely on the right track, with the TTP. And every year I feel like our clubs are getting stronger and stronger, like for instance, for Brooklyn College, the computer science club was only revived about 4 years ago or so. Like I know the last few presidents. I know the first one that wrote it, I know the second one, I know the third one, and I was the fourth, and I know who the fifth is now. I guess it's only been 5 years then, but I know some of them had more than, yeah, about 5 years, or maybe even six. I know some of them did more than one term.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, but it's very recent. The computer science, women in computer science club, I know the founders and the presidents. Like same thing with engineering club, that only started recently. We've been working on a makerspace, and I think, yeah, like the cool thing about these clubs is that they literally give you money to invest in whatever you want. When I was there, I was trying to get people to create a hackathon club, because then you can literally just pay for people to go to hackathons. And Like,
Hmm.
you can pay for the transportation, you can buy tickets, you can pay for food if you really wanted to. You can come through with like matching bomber jackets, which would have been so freaking cool. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, that's something that a lot of other schools have, right?
yeah.
Like I remember when I was in Albany, they had buses that would be going to like hackathons, and we just like just sign up and it's already paid for. You just show up and you get to go to the hackathon, you spend the day, you're already getting free food and everything else. So the school doesn't even have to worry about paying for all that stuff. It's just like, well, you get a free bus and you don't have to worry about providing your own transportation.
Yeah.
Just show up on campus, you hop on the bus and you get to go there.
Yeah, and those little frictions, like, paying for transportation, or, who do we go with? Like, all of that slowly adds up to people who are trying to break into the tech industry. And these companies always talk
Mhm.
about, like diversity, but if you're not including economic, like socioeconomic diversity, you're never going to get full ethnic diversity either, or diversity of thought and all
Yep.
these other things. Yeah, I feel like you and I are both very passionate about like the discrepancy in like the recruiting pipeline. Um,
Definitely. I mean, I've even as experienced as I've like become, I've definitely still struggled a fair bit, like just getting recognized by companies that I don't already have a connection to.
yeah.
And like even while applying for new grad positions and stuff, like there were very few like callbacks that I got, even with a resume as long as mine is. And I don't think it's because I wasn't qualified. It's just I don't have as many or as much access to dedicated recruiting like teams and like all like specific recruiting events at Brooklyn College or all those other things that target schools typically get. So I definitely think there's a lot more work to be done. I've personally tried to do as much as I can when I like start working at companies to facilitate and help with some of those efforts. I've gotten pushbacks from some companies on it, and some companies have been open to it. But I'm definitely going to still continue to try to fight for it because
Yeah.
I feel like there are a lot more people out there that deserve the opportunity that don't have it.
Hell yeah. I'm the same way, like for internships, I used to refer as many people that I'm not gonna say I referred everyone because I don't think some people deserve to be in the tech
Yeah,
industry if they're
I mean,
toxic. Like,
yeah, that's
I
fair.
think we have a responsibility to like, you know, um, but I do also try the same thing. Like I refer people who really deserve a fair chance, and I try to bring recruiters to like the campus too, because the moment you have an internal connection, for hackathon, like when we founded the Brooklyn College hackathon, almost all the sponsors we got were from students who connected to their internships or previous employers. Um, that's why like I'm always conflicted between, not even conflicted. I think like it's the responsibility for the institution and the benefit of the institution to make sure these people are getting hired and they have good access of jobs and they aren't ridden with like debt when they graduate and that they have a job lined up. But I also think like
Yeah.
students like us, like we can't just wait for them to come around and help us. Like we have power now, and a big part of it is just like community. Like none of the things you
Yeah.
were part of the computer
And I
science
mean,
club, I was part of the computer science club. We both founded the hackathon. None of us could have done that by ourselves. Like this was a whole group of
yeah,
people.
yeah. And I think like I also like to give credit or some credit to like computer science departments. I feel like some of them try. It's just like emailing a random recruiter or messaging a random recruiter on LinkedIn, like they're probably going to be as ignored as regular candidates are ignored. And like developing that relationship is difficult. So even like personally, when I was like the VP of the club, something that I spoke with CUNY2X about is any connection that I make with any company externally, I am giving them your contact. So when I graduate, you still have that contact. Because creating that relationship for myself and then leaving, and then they have no way of continuing that relationship with the school. And then everyone else that comes after me is just left in the weeds to figure things out. And then they have to do the whole thing over again. Like, 4900, I think was our like internship project class thing. And I remember when Augenstein, I don't remember, yeah, when he passed away, and that was the time when I needed to take 4900, and the department's excuse was, "Hey, well, he had all the connections and he never really told anybody who they were, so now we don't have any projects for you all." And that to me just I was just mind blown. I was just like, there's no way there's one single person that has all of this, and there's no effort to have a to ensure that the career center and the department like is aware of who all these people are and continue to maintain these relationships and like invite them to different events. And whenever we have 4900 and all the other like TTP now has their internships and stuff to get these companies engaged and start having us like having students get more opportunities to be able to intern and work at these companies.
Yeah, they definitely need to keep up the momentum and share resources. And I'll give the our college a little bit of credit too. Like for instance, I know I worked very closely with the career center, and I know they all work really hard. And it's like a
Yeah.
team of what, maybe 20 people, max 30, and they
Yeah.
have to find jobs for like the whole goddamn school. It's a big school. And I know, like,
Mm-hmm.
when we had that interaction with Twitter, you know, they were visiting different schools, and I think I added them or replied to them. And I was like, why don't you stop by Brooklyn College too? We have like a great source of talent, and they responded back, and we were able to schedule a call, which couldn't happen because of COVID. But when I did that, my friends at the career center were like, oh my god, we've been trying to reach out to Twitter, we've been trying to have them on campus forever, and it didn't work until just this moment when you reached out, you know. And so I'll
Yeah.
definitely give credit like to the career center, and we both know people in the department. It's no one's like one particular person's fault, but I just feel like as a system,
Mm-hmm.
everyone could be doing
Yeah.
better.
And I mean, the funny thing with that Twitter like situation was, I think Twitter or the career center didn't have much success with them, like even afterwards. And then I reached out again, and then I was able to connect with someone, and I met with
Yeah.
them, and then I like had the whole meeting again, reintroducing
So
them.
what was his
And it turns out
name?
that the person that they met initially was the same person that I was introduced
Yeah,
to.
what was his name? He was so
So,
cool. He's like
oh God,
he was like active on Twitter too, and he was just like so
yeah.
casual.
He's
Really
at
great
Zoom
energy.
now. Lejeune is his name. Yeah,
Lejeune, yeah,
Lejeune.
yeah, yeah.
He's great. I our call was fun because I was like talking about myself or whatever, and then he like I told him that I was Jamaican like towards the end of the call, and that he was just like yo, and he was Jamaican too, and there was this whole
You should have
thing
started with
where it's like,
that.
oh, where are you from? And he's like, yeah. And um I don't know. He connected me with people internally at Twitter to just meet with and talk about like career and stuff. And like I don't know. He's a great guy. And he's at Zoom now. And when he left to Zoom, one of the first things he did was to reach out and be like, "Hey, like I still want to ensure that Brooklyn College has a connection with me wherever I go."
Aww.
So we technically still like have a contact at Zoom. And even though like he's no longer at Twitter, like I don't know, he definitely still tried as much as he could to help like develop those relationships.
I can literally talk to you forever, but I think we're almost out of time. And at the last few minutes, I'd love to do a few like rapid questions. So,
Yeah, go for it.
what's a tech you're excited about right now? A piece of technology or an area of technology you're excited about?
Yeah. So recently, I don't know. I've had a renewed interest in gaming, but not in the sense of like playing games, but in the game industry as a whole. And I've been putting a lot of like time and effort into figuring out like what the direction of the game industry is going in, especially like seeing how many people I know that have started to play more games over the past like year. Everybody being stuck at home with the pandemic and stuff, and there's a ton of like interesting trends that are going on right now, where there's a lot of growth in terms of who's playing games, the demographics that's playing games, the types of games that are being played. Like mobile gaming is like having a huge surge, which is like insane. It's not just Candy Crush and like those types of games anymore. The fact that Call of Duty mobile and a lot of those things exist is like a testament to where the industry is going. And I don't know, there's just a ton of cool work around like trying to solve like toxicity in gaming, and it's a community wide effort and not just one company saying, hey, like I'm gonna fix this thing. Because every game publisher is at a point where they understand that toxicity in gaming is pretty much a barrier for having more people that want to play games, from like feeling like it's a barrier for them being able to play the games, and they'll either feel like they don't belong or they'll feel shut out. When like it being a public game, like everyone should be welcomed and should feel like they have some sort of a community in the gaming space. So there's a ton of stuff like happening around there that I'm like super excited for, that like personally I want to work on. So they're like open source projects that I'm looking into potentially getting involved in, and there's like efforts internally within Google that I'm hoping to like get involved in. So I think that's like the biggest thing. I don't know. I've spent a lot of time and effort like looking at this stuff lately, so it's like I don't know, I'm like really passionate about it now.
What was the last good book you read?
Uh, I don't read a lot, which I want to change, but it's so
Okay.
hard. I don't know. I've never but there is one book that called The Unicorn Project. It's like it's a part of like a two series book, and it's a fictional book that's basically I feel like it's the only fictional tech book that I've found. But it basically talks about like someone's experience like working in the tech industry, but it's like fictional, and there's a lot of things that are I don't know. I feel like are exaggerated, but I feel like there may be some company out there that actually works like this. That's I don't know. It's a pretty interesting read though, and I really enjoyed it. And then I have a ton of books behind me that I need to. I bought them, but I haven't started reading them. Hopefully, at some point, I don't know. Maybe I'll make a New Year's resolution or something to read a couple books next year and see how that goes. But we'll see.
Um, do you currently have a mentor, and do you mentor others?
I don't have an official mentor, but I have someone that pretty much plays like a huge like mentorship role in my life. His name's Griff. He was my like official mentor at Qualcomm when I was an intern there. He's super awesome. Like I share everything with him. We like have chats and stuff. And he's like always supportive. He's always trying to like encourage me and like trying to help me like figure out like ways to grow and to continue to like have a successful career. So I'm like always super appreciative of him. And yeah, I don't mentor currently. Um like I help people in like one off like situations, but I struggle right now to really feel like I have enough time and like focus to say, hey, I can dedicate like a weekend a month or something just to like sit with someone, or like I don't know, be readily available anytime someone messages me to instantly respond and be like, oh yeah, I can look over this resume before you submit your application or something. So I'm taking a little bit slow, but I'm trying to find opportunities to do that. And like once I like leave this program, I'll find opportunities for like next year's cohort to be able to like be some sort of a resource for them. I'm currently signed up to do a an external talk, I think, with HBCUs in a couple of weeks. So I'm trying my best to support people that are making their way into the tech industry as best as possible. But I'm avoiding any like one off mentorship relationships right now, just because I don't feel like I'm in the place to be able to fully dedicate myself to it.
Yeah. No, I get it. I'm in the same boat. I like was like, I'm gonna mentor people, and then like four or five people messaged me, and I was like, I don't know if I can mentor everyone. So
Yeah,
I agree
it's
with what you're
difficult.
doing. It's a smart move. Last question: if you had some advice to give to college students, or not even college students, just people who are trying to enter the tech industry, what would it be?
I think the biggest things that worked for me is to just all like be aware that you're always going to continue learning and try to find opportunities to do so. So whether that's like learning new skills or like looking at Twitter and figuring out what the rest of the tech industry is doing, which is I don't know. Take that with a grain of salt. Twitter is a hit or miss. There are a lot of like, oh yeah, well only use React people, but there's so many other technologies out there. There's like I take like joy in just learning as much as I can about what the industry is doing and the direction that the industry is going. So like and I mean that's proven to be beneficial as I like start my career. So I say just like try to find opportunities to learn. Be aware that you're always going to continue learning even after you start your job. You're
Big
never
facts.
going to be an expert because there's so many things out there to learn. And then I think the next thing is to really try to find a network of advocates for yourself. People that will be honest with you, will provide like real feedback, whether you're doing great or you need to improve something, or like you need to have that around you, because those are the people that are really going to help push you and really like call out the things that could potentially be preventing you from reaching what your goal is or getting that promotion or whatever it is. So I think those are probably the two biggest things. But I think overall, I feel like anyone can have a place in tech, and everyone should be able to have a place in tech if they want to, and hopefully we get to a place where the industry is like really supportive of that, and everyone starts to work together to help other people that want to get in, because there's this huge thing where we have a shortage of tech talent, but there's still all these systems in place to prevent people that want to get into tech from getting in there. So hang in there.
Well, that's a mic
And
drop
I don't
right
know.
there. That's a great ending. Junninho, it is always such a pleasure. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thanks for having me.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. All.
We did it. We did it without anything crashing, I think. And that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed listening half as much as I enjoyed talking with them. I feel like I say that in every episode, but this podcast has been so much fun to do so far. And I'd love to hear more about what you guys like and what you don't like. You can email me. You can comment down below. Feel free to stay in touch with me on Instagram and Twitter. Definitely subscribe here and give this a like if you went all the way to the end. There's also a mailing list. I send no more than once a month emails just updating on my life, on the progress of the podcast. And as you all know now, it's both on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So now you have no excuse, okay? Have a great weekend, and I'll see you later.